Hello, I'm Stan Grant. Welcome to 1+1. I'm in the home of Carlotta. That's all I have to say. One word and you know who I'm talking about. Carlotta has always played by her own rules, never being defined by what other people may say or may think. And she's achieved what everyone wants to achieve who's famous, to be known just for that one name. But she's someone with many identities.
At the moment, I'm a female impersonator.
The art of drag is, of course, it's a man dressed as a woman, but doing it well, doing it really well.
Play Girls is the ultimate in drag.
I told you we were
Carlotta, welcome to 1+1.
Thank you. Been dying to do this show.
I've been dying to talk to you. You know, I always ask everyone at the start of this, who are you? It's a funny thing when asking you because you've had more identities than any other person.
I know. Just brand me Queen of the Identities. You know, I just say to everybody, I'm just Carlotta.
Just Carlotta.
Yeah, I don't put a brand on myself. I'm Carlotta. That's
Carlotta's
it.
a bit of a brand, though, isn't it? In its own way.
Well, it's made me a bit of money over the years, but
That's not a bad thing.
That's not a bad thing. You know, they say, oh, you know, what sex are you or whatever, and I said, that's got nothing to do with it. I said, I'm Carlotta. I'm just a human being. I don't put a sex tag. I said, you could call me a horse. I don't care. I said, I'm just Carlotta. That's it.
It's funny you say, is that something you had to get to? Because it's a journey to get to saying I'm just Carlotta, because it wasn't. To be honest, it wasn't that simple. It wasn't that simple.
I've earned my points. I've earned it at the hard way, you know, because when I started off in this business, you know, we were really frowned upon, and I had to fight the system, and I fought the system. You know, there's that I've told it so many times when I got arrested. There was no actual law saying you couldn't dress as a woman. The law was offensive behaviour. And I got arrested. I bucked the systems. I just went to work, you know, all in the female gear and all this. This was before I had this exchange.
Where would they arrest you?
Outside the old Metro Theatre at the Cross, walking home from the Bourbon and Beef one night. I had a bit of tiddly in me and a few scotches. And the next minute I was at the Central Police Station, had to be brought up against the judge the next morning. And he said, what's the charge? They said offensive behaviour. And I said, what's the offensive behaviour? I said, I didn't swear or anything. They picked me up because I was dressed as a woman. He said, it's called offensive behaviour. And I said, well, if that's the case, you've got a wig and a robe on, so what's the difference?
Only you could say that.
But
That's a cheek. That's a cheek.
He absolutely laughed his head off, and he came down with that thing and said, case dismissed.
It was a different time, wasn't it? I mean, you were really challenging a lot of things in society by dressing as you were.
We used to have a policeman chase us down the streets. I used to call him Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. You know, the movie, you know, where Robert Helpman used to run and collect all the kids with the net. They'd wait in alleyways to get the drag queens. And I just had to fight that system, you know, and not only that, I was up against the gangsters for a long time where, you know, we were like slave labour. You know, we were getting shocking money, but it was fun too. It was so glamorous. I mean, King's Cross was glamorous. I remember years later when I went to America, and everyone in America used to say to me, I can't wait to go to Australia and see this King's Cross. And,
well, it was famous, wasn't it?
It was
the
very
big Coke
famous.
sign.
Big lights, you know, and the strip clubs were beautiful. And, I mean, the prostitutes on the street were beautiful. But this was before all the drug things came in. The drugs really ruined the Cross. It sort of became sleazy after that.
Can I go back and ask what's the journey to the Cross for you? What puts you in the Cross at that time in your life, that time in our...
Well, I was brought up in Balmain. I swam with Dawn Fraser. She swam like a bloke and I dressed like a woman. There's another line from that show. And Dawn's an
Dawn
old
would
mate.
love that.
No, no, she's an old mate. She came and saw my show, actually, my one-woman show, and she had the best night. I went to a party one night and I met a guy called Lee Gordon.
Mm-hmm. Who was the
And
promoter?
a big promoter. He bought Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, bought Elizabeth Taylor, and he was married to a girl who was a showgirl at the Latin Quarter. And he said, I've seen this show in Paris. This was at a party one night. And he said, you'd make a fabulous girl. And I said, oh, don't be ridiculous.
Had you even thought about it at that stage? Because let's fill people in. At this stage, who are you?
I'm just a little artist that worked at Mark Voice and David Jones. Yeah. I was 16. I shouldn't have been at these parties, but because I left home, I had not a good childhood later in life. I had a very good childhood earlier in life because I had two mothers. My mother was very young when she had me. So I had a very abusive stepfather. And I was only with them from the age of 12, ran away from home at 16, got a bed sitter at the Cross down near the Naval Depot. And then all of a sudden I met Lee Gordon at a party and we opened up a little room called the Rheinschloss, 6 of us, impersonators. And then we went from there to the place called the Jewel Box. Sammy Lee came along and Reg Boom, who owned the Latin Quarter in Pitt Street in Sydney, because there was Checkers, there was the Latin Quarter, there's on all these nightclubs and the Mandarin Club and all that. And they were opening up where the Lay Girls building is now. That was a paddock and there was a house with a fish and chip shop on it. And they were building this new building, Abe Saffron was, and he rented the building. See, everyone thought that Abe Saffron owned Lay Girls. He didn't. He owned the building. And he rented it to Sammy Lee and Reg Boom. And Lay Girls opened in October 1963.
This is an amazing world for you to enter into. And I'm just wondering too, what does Lee Gordon see? Because he's looking at a boy from Balmain and seeing a girl on a stage.
Well, I knew I was a bit feminine and all that, but I didn't know about gay things or anything like that. You know, even though I met a few gay window dressers and all that, and you know, and started going to gay parties and all that. But I just felt uncomfortable, and I went to see a doctor because I wasn't growing hair on the legs, and I had a hormone imbalance for a start. Something I think my mother ate fairy cakes when she was pregnant or something or other. Because I mean, I don't look like a boy, and I just went, well, I may as well go into it. But I can honestly say, the reason I had a sex change is because I didn't like looking what was in the mirror.
Really? Seeing the physical form.
Me all looking like a girl, and that's the and I can say it now at this age. That is the reason I had it.
Is there a moment where you say, I shouldn't be this, I should be a woman?
I knew something. Look, it's hard to remember that far back. I am 77. It's just I just had those feelings, you know. I thought something's wrong here, you know, because I've got this feminine feelings, you know what I mean. And I think I could honestly think that Lee Gordon really hit it off when he started me dressing as a woman, because I started to look pretty good. And then all
paid off too.
And I started doing a bit of modelling on the side and all that, so it was good.
Was that a bit of a psychological transformation too? When you put on the clothes and the makeup and the wig, did you suddenly feel like this is actually who I am? You felt comfortable.
I felt comfortable.
Then you become Carol. And I know that, you know, I've read various interviews with you, and you say, I am Carol.
Yeah. But there was an interview called The Glittering Mile, which they did in black and white, I think, and then they're interviewing me in the kitchen, and then in those days, I always got told I looked like this one. In those days, I thought, because I had black hair, I looked like Natalie Wood. You know, whoever was a star who was around, I don't think I looked anything like her. But anyway, I go, whatever. And then I remember saying in that thing, I was 17, 18 or something, and I said, no, I'll always be just, a boy.
Let's face it, I was born a boy, and that's the way it is. I mean, I'm doing this as a job, no other thing.
I turned into Carlotta, but I've never sort of put a tag on myself in that way, you know. I mean,
Carlotta's on the stage.
Yeah.
When you stepped off the stage, is that where Carol?
No, I leave Carlotta on stage.
Yeah, you leave Carlotta
I'm
there,
Carol
and you're Carol.
off stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about this time, and you're out there on the edge, and you're challenging, and you're entertaining, and you're outraging people, no doubt as well. You've got the police on your tail.
And it's changed too, Stan. Don't forget, we've got trans. We've got what they call trans today.
And that's what I was going to ask you again. How do you see yourself when you hear
so many
those
labels.
terms now?
Well, look, I understand where trans are coming from. You know, they're in their, they feel trapped in, they feel, they're a woman trapped in a man's body. But you've got to understand is I come from a time where I had to fight to be a female. But I personally have never considered myself as if I was a real female, I'd have children. You know what I mean? I just put I don't even. Well, I suppose it's a hard thing to answer. You know, you could call me a female impersonator, but you can't call me that. This is how it is today. This is why I hate political correctness. It's ruined our country. If you say, "Oh, I'm a boy," people don't believe it. If you say I'm a girl, people don't believe it. So you know what?
So it's the labels you don't like.
It's the labels I don't like. I just don't like the labels. I'm a human being. I chose to be like this, and I chose to be Carlotta. But, I feel so, I help out a lot of trans as well. I get a lot of letters from them, and I just say, be yourself. We're only here for a short time, and you've got to make yourself happy. I've seen too many suicides, with kids that are one thing that hurts a lot of them is they can't tell their parents. They're not game enough to tell their parents. And it still happens.
It's a funny thing, when I hear you say political correctness is ruining our country, and I think about what you would have been going through and what you've described to me in that period during the 60s when you're really pushing against the boundaries, that would seem a strange thing to hear from Carlotta, to say political correctness is ruining the country, when people would have said awful things to you at that time that people who, what we now call political correctness, are looking to actually defend. They're actually defending.
Yeah, they're defending
you.
Yeah, that's right. They're defending.
But you don't like that.
No, I don't like people defending me because I can defend myself. And I say, this is what I say about, if you don't like me, get off the planet, because I'm not going to go through the rest of my life worrying about whether you're going to like me or accept me as who I am. And this is what I say to a lot of my trans friends. I say, darlings, you've got to go through life being proud of yourself. If that's the life you want to live, that's it. But don't let anyone put you down.
Not easy though, is it, Carlotta? And for you have, and you've clearly got a great strength and a strong idea of who you are and standing up for who you are. Other people, not necessarily. It can be, they're not necessarily as confident, not necessarily able to stand up.
Well, see, I'm in the limelight. I'm a show business person. I'm in the limelight. So there's Carlotta. Now, when I'm not in the limelight, I'm Carol Spencer. You know what? You treat me as, all right, the girl next door or whatever, the woman you know, if that's the way you look at me, because they don't go up and say to me, oh, mate, how are you? Those days are gone. Did you have a shave today or something? We used to get gigged like that. Mm-hmm. Don't forget, we couldn't go out and get a job in a chemist shop. Mm-hmm. That was our wall. Lay girls entertaining was our wall. That's all today they can. I know some that have become lawyers. You wouldn't even know they were boys.
That was never open.
No, it was never open for me.
If you were going to have a life, it had to be on the stage. No, you had to make a virtue.
My whole life
you had to make a virtue of all of that.
Yeah, I couldn't go out and do that.
Mm. When I talking to you now, we live in a time where there are so many landmines. You step on the wrong thing, you say the wrong thing, you can find yourself in all sorts of trouble. And I know even having this conversation with you, Carlotta, I'm seeing all the landmines. You know, Carlotta's just stepping on them all. Is that what you wanted? You want to challenge anything? You challenge things then, you want to challenge things now?
I think I'll probably challenge them till the day they lower me down in the box. But it's just that I will stand up with things that I think that are right. And if I'm wrong, please don't hesitate to tell me I'm wrong. But usually I'm right because I don't put up with fools.
You said something before too that when I heard it, I thought, oh, people are going to hear this. And when you said trans women, real women, even using that sort of language, people are going to say, well, I'm a real woman. But there is, I'm also aware there's a very strong debate around what is a woman. And there are some members of people who would say they're feminists who challenge the idea that a trans woman is a woman. And then there are people who say, well, I am a woman. So even language like that can be so fraught.
It's very tricky. And the thing is, and as I say to them, just live your life the way you want to live it. And if you want to be a woman, you want to be a woman. That's fine with me. It is fine with me. But it's just that I hate political correctness now because you can't have a joke anymore in this country. Comedians have changed. Once I could say things on stage, I get away with it. I can't do it anymore.
People are going to be a little bit surprised to hear this coming from Carlotta because of what you represented at the time. You were the person who was right on the edge. You were the person who was pushing the boundaries, but now you sound like the conservative person who's saying, well, I hate all that. I hate all this political correctness nonsense.
Well, I do hate the political correctness. Why can't we just be treated as who we are? That's my. I might be phrasing it wrong. I don't know. I don't know. I really am confused myself because I just think that, if I was starting off again and I wanted to be a girl, I'd be a girl. Do you know what I mean?
Would it be different now? Would you feel more supported today than you were then?
I think I'd be more supported today. I wasn't supported at all back then. No. I mean, we used to get bashed for what we were. I've heard that some do get bashed today, but, it was terrible. And I just think, you've got more freedom today. I think a lot of people have got in my business, impersonators or what trans and all that. They've got more freedom than they've ever had in their life, and that's why I said rejoice with it. Rejoice if you want to say you're a woman, say you're a woman.
I love that idea of freedom because identity, as it is constructed now, is often not necessarily well. It's about saying you fit this box or that box, or you are qualified to talk about this, but you're not qualified to talk about that. In a way, what you're saying is you're demanding the freedom. You're saying I'll be free because I'm not going to be what anyone else tells me I should be.
No, that's right. That's right. And I would never go up to if someone came up to me and they said, oh, I'm a woman, and they're not a woman, I wouldn't say to them, you're not a woman. It's yourself. It's what you want to be yourself. And that's how I've lived my life. And I say to people, if you don't like it, get off the planet.
When I hear you and the way you speak and being so matter of fact, your humour, the bawdiness, it does remind me of that other Australia. And I was a kid growing up in that Australia, the Australia
of the 1960s.
Well, I love
that other Australia.
The 1970s.
I miss it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Do you miss that? Even the rough time, the hard time you went through, all that, you miss it?
As I said, it wasn't just that. I miss it. You know what I miss about it? I miss the honesty. Stan, you could say what you wanted to say in those days, without... And people would turn around, and if they thought you said the wrong thing, they'd shut you up in a minute. But today, they'll turn around and sue you. You know, I miss that. I don't know, to me today, people just, I don't know, they're not as straightforward as they were back in my time.
There's a lot of nostalgia for that period too, I'd imagine, for you too. The people that you knew, the friends that you had, people like Peter Allen, who, you know, people who are gone now, but people who are so close to you.
Well,
it must be a great amount of nostalgia.
No, Peter Allen was a great, you know, he was, he didn't come out as gay for a long time. You know, when he married Liza Minnelli and all that, we all knew he was gay. I mean, I should know he was gay. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, but I just, it's all changed. It really has changed. And it's, in my books, it's sad. I miss it. I miss it terribly. You know, I just miss that, that companionship of mateship. It's that mateship that's sort of gone to me. But I've got great friends. I have a great time now. I enjoy what I'm doing. You know, I'm not lazy. I mean, I feed half this complex that I'm living in. They call me Meals on Heels. But because I like to cook. I'm painting at the moment because I had to, because of COVID, you know, I had to take up painting. God, I'm making myself out to be a saint here, but I'm not. But I feel sorry for people today. I didn't see in my time people that were really unhappy. I see a lot of people that are unhappy today.
It's interesting you say that, because in the research for this, I went back to an old interview with you. It was a black and white interview, and it was, you know, late 60s, maybe early 70s. And you actually asked that question, are you happy? And you said you weren't.
I'm happy in the fact that I enjoy life, but I'm not happy within myself. At the moment, I'm not, because I want a more social security, could I say, in life. You know, I want a more or social position in life. I can say, oh, I'm a woman now.
I would say mainly, if it was in black and white TV days, I think it was I wasn't happy in my work. Because we, as I said, we were really used. We were used, I can more or less say that we were used as freaks. You know, come and see the, you know, because, you know, that I got a lot of good sayings from people sending me up, you know, saying, oh, that, you know, you hear blokes in the audience say, that's not a bloke. Or, you know, they'd scream out, where do you put it? And I came up with some very good answers, which I'm not going to say on television. But, you know, I think that was a very not a happy period for me at that time, because I was fighting all the time for acceptance, I think. I think that's what it was. And I finally, do you know when I finally found myself accepted? When I got asked to do number 96.
And that was a first.
I was first in the world, apparently. Some of our people that study all that in TV. And I couldn't believe it, you know, and I thought, I can't act. Well, I still can't act, because I've been offered a few movie things and I knocked them back. I said, no, I'm a stage person. But I got through that, but I was just so accepted. And I remember Pat McDonnell, you know, that was in, she used to pick me up and take me to the studio, because they locked me in a cupboard at where they made number 96. And because they didn't want the storyline, because I wasn't really known that well as Carlotta, and they didn't want the storyline to come
listen
out.
Listen to me first. There's something about me you have to know.
Oh, don't say it. There's no need to. I already know.
You do? How? Oh, you mean Terry's told you after all?
Well, she hinted the whole thing at me earlier today, but in point of actual fact, my dear Robin, she had no need, for I had already guessed.
You had? And you don't mind?
Oh, how could I possibly mind? There isn't a particle of you that I don't love or want or remember.
And you really don't mind me not being a girl?
I beg your pardon?
I'm not a girl. But you said you'd guessed.
I had guessed nothing of the sort. Miss Ross. Mr. Ross?
It was absolutely fun, and then of course I was very grateful to Brian Walsh from Foxtel. Came into a pub one night and asked me to go into Beauty and the Beast, and I started doing television from then on. You know, but I've done so many TV shows all through the years, and I think that's where I became sort of
That's where you got the acceptance.
That's where I got the acceptance, I think.
Becomes normal, doesn't
because
it?
I think
it becomes just a
it
part
did.
of Australia.
It did, and it was a very strange feeling. It was a strange feeling, and it was a happy feeling. And I thought, I'm doing all right. But they just accepted me as they never called me a bloke, they never called me a girl, they just called me Carlotta. And I think that's where it's been embedded into me. I'm Carlotta.
In that same interview, you were asked, what will you be like at 60?
So what will Carlotta be doing when, say, she's 65? Will she be a lonely old woman?
I think what any woman would be doing, I think sitting home knitting or something. But I tell you what, I hope to be a real swinger at 65.
I said I was a swinger.
A swinger. You hope you're a swinger.
Well, I am a swinger. I still am a swinger. I have lovely, I have friends come around. I go to dinner parties and all. I love swing. I can't do the nightclub scene anymore. I mean, that thump, 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 that did my head in, But it's just wonderful.
So I'm going to ask you now, what would you be like in your 80s?
What will be like in my 80s? A bloody good time. Still. I'll be singing when they lower me into that box, darling. No, because I always say to people, enjoy life goes, see, after 50, it goes quick. It starts going very quick. It's sort of slow in your youth. It seems slower. And I think all of a sudden I was 50, and then all of a sudden I was 60. And then I was 70, I went, bloody hell, where did the year go? But I make sure I have a bloody good time all the time because I just enjoy life.
Well, I've had a bloody good time doing the interview, Carlotta. It's been a pleasure.
You.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.